Couldn't be me. So there's a lot to say about this, but also we haven't actually I should say, but I don't think enough people are giving Nick Saban and Alabama their due. Because what do we know? We know that Nick Saban missed a game due to COVID, but all the principles that Alabama needs to be available to be the Alabama that they are have been available. Patrick Surtain, Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith. I mean, Jalen Waddle goes down with injury, not COVID. You know what I mean? That offensive line is... Sam Pittman is the head coach at Arkansas. Sam Pittman was the offensive line coach at Georgia, right? One of the elite recruiters, one of the elite developers of offensive linemen in college football. He said, do you think he was asked, who do you think among Alabama should be the Heisman frontrunner, like Devontae Smith and Mac Jones? That man said the offensive line.
This is one of those, like, this is luck. This is the requisite amount of luck that you need to be a truly, like, great champion. Because if you have great luck, you're Alabama. If you have mostly great luck, you're Clemson.
I would even say if you have mostly great luck, you're LSU, because they've won 3 national championships in 2 decades. What has Oklahoma been except unlucky? And how 2017 is unlucky. You're the better team. You're up 17. You know, you blame the squib kick, but, you know, that game went to OT. You had a chance to get there. You know? I would also look around and say, 08, you were unlucky. That Florida team is a monster. And that's the worst part. Is like, this is one of the best Oklahoma teams of all time. It's one of the best teams of all time. We're making it like a top 25 list. Right? You would put that 08 Oklahoma team ahead of several national champions because they were just that loaded. And yet Florida said, Percy Harvin, Tim Tebow, Aaron Hernandez, like we're coming for your cap. Okay? Coming for your whole cap. I think being the requisite amount of lucky is also like just that sauce, because what if Clemson didn't play in the ACC? Would we care about Clemson? Would Clemson even have a shot to play for a championship?
Like you say, if you swap Coastal Carolina and Clemson, just straight up.
Straight up. Like, what do we say about the ACC like the last 5 years? Right? It's basically, it was Florida State, and then right after Florida State fell off, here comes Clemson. Outside of that, you don't trust anybody else in that league, man. You don't.
So say, do we have any mid-major type or programs in college football, like, say, going to college basketball, where you can have a team like Memphis that has just 9 draft picks on the roster but plays a conference of nobodies?
Central Florida would be one. We'll see what happens with Coastal Carolina after this year. The problem with having like gigantic major mid-majors is, unlike basketball, good coordinators and head coaches get plucked because they walk up to you and say, do you want to make $500,000 at Coastal Carolina? Do you want to make $5 million at South Carolina? You know, like, that's what it is. They don't do that in basketball, right? Because quite honestly, 1, you ain't got that much money to go around. And 2, there ain't but like 5 blue blood jobs in college basketball, right? There are only 5 jobs that people want. You want Kentucky. You want Duke. Jim Boeheim wants Syracuse. People used to want UConn. You want Kansas, and you want North Carolina. After that, what are we talking about?
I'm just saying, like, if it happened this season, because this is just bench racing a thought, that if a team that was from a conference that didn't play nobody, that passed the eyeball test with
like Gonzaga,
the talent they have on top, like a Gonzaga. No, that's obviously a top 5 ball club.
Yes, but we had to look up what conference they play in. Like, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm making the comparison. We had to look up West Coast Conference.
Yeah, we did. Like, I remember that it was the WCC, but I didn't know what they stood for.
I was like, man, all
I knew was like, that's a 2-team conference. It's St. Mary's and Gonzaga, right?
And I got that confused
swap back and forth
with the WEC, which is a fighting promotion. So, like, that's where it was for me. So you're basically saying Fresno State out of the whack, right? You're saying Tulsa out of the whack. Tulsa out of Conference USA. Yeah, out of Conference USA. Like, I also had, or Missouri Valley. I had to look this up for the piece that I wrote because Cincinnati's going to play Tulsa at Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati for the American Championship. And the American, at least its like Twitter account and its like commissioner have been very, very pro Cincinnati the last week and a half because they're trying to get their team into the playoff, right? Tulsa's looking around going, wait a second, aren't we playing for a championship? Didn't they have this game moved 3 times? Don't we have perhaps the Butkus Award winner, if not the Nagurski Award winner? And if it ain't him, it's got to be Mike Rose. The point is, Tulsa feels some kind of way about that. What if Tulsa goes up to Cincinnati, hands Cincinnati this L, walks out with that banner? How is the American going to treat them? Because Cincinnati is trying to get to that place, right? Because Cincinnati, Memphis are also those major mid-majors. What happened? Mike Norvell went to Florida State, right? I expect Luke Fickell is waiting on a job that he wants to leave Cincinnati. But here's the problem. He got a Matt Campbell problem. His dream job is in Columbus. Mm-hmm. Now, Luke Fickell was the head coach in Columbus for a year when they were under, tremendous sanctions. And then Urban Meyer comes in there, makes him the defense coordinator. You go undefeated in 2012, and they still can't play for a national championship because they got a bowl ban. Like, I need to write about that team. That team was so stacked and so good and should have never been that good that quickly. But, like, could Cincinnati be the answer to your question is what I'm asking. If Luke Fickell is forced to stay there for another year. Because I don't think it's going to be longer than that, even though the Ohio State job's not going to come open. He'll go somewhere else.
No, Cincinnati could absolutely be that school. Cincinnati's good, like no doubt about it. But because when we talk, because we've been talking all week about Ohio State. Actually, we've been talking all year about Ohio State. But Ohio State has just so many people on the roster that it almost didn't matter how many games that they played. That as long as they were undefeated, they were going to be in the top 10.
I test. I test. I'm blind in both eyes, but I can tell you, like, man, I hate the eye test. I hate, perhaps it's because I think of myself as a group of 5 school, like eye test. I'm beating everybody they put in front of me. Eye test. Like, how does USC feel? Because nobody's going to award them a national championship. Like, none of the selectors are going to put USC at the top of any ranking. And yet they could finish undefeated, 6-0 with a conference championship, go to the Fiesta Bowl, get a W. Where do you put them?
It's the year of the asterisk. Like that's what I've been saying. It's like, hey, what happened that year? Yeah, asterisk, dog. You do whatever you want. I don't care. We'll see. Class is out. We'll see everybody in 2021.
We could do this every year though, right?
Yes.
And that's why I hate it. That's why I hate saying this is the year of the asterisk, because we could do that every year. Every single year. Like Central Florida. Asterisk. They didn't play a tough schedule. They didn't? Are you serious? They didn't beat nobody. They beat a top 10 Auburn in the Peach Bowl. Come from behind and do it. Yeah, well, Auburn lost to Bama, so, and Bama won the national championship. Yes, Bama is the consensus college football national championship, or national champion. But until y'all want to put together a system where Central Florida has to play Alabama,